Hello everyone, my name is Hadel-Lynn, and for the past 6 months, I have been working here in San Diego as a new grad nurse, and I figured it's time to share my experience on what it's like being a new grad nurse, specifically working in a hospital. Again, this is just my personal take on what my experience has been like. I'm sure everyone has a little bit of different experiences here and there, but I feel like the topics that I'm going to talk about are kind of universal experiences. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and with that, let's get started. So the first topic I want to talk about is the training period. So for me, I am in a new grad residency program that lasts 10 months. How it works is the first 10 weeks of the program, you're going to be on day shift. You have a preceptor with you at all times. And then for 1 week, you are going to be on night shifts with a preceptor. And then you're on your own, and in the middle you still have these training classes that you have to attend. I still remember my first day, and I just remember so much information being thrown all at once. One of the other new grads has explained it to me as feeling like you're drinking out of a fire hose, and I feel like that's a really great explanation of how it felt. However, looking back at it's also a honeymoon period because you have the preceptor with you at all times. If you make a mistake, which you're gonna make a mistake, it happens. You're learning, it's fine. At least the preceptor that is there to hold your hand. I thought how the new grad residency would work is they're gonna hold my hand for the whole 10 months. No, it's just only for 11 weeks and then you're on your own. But people understand that since you're new, you're still learning the ropes and whatnot, and that you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna ask a lot of questions. Always ask questions. That's very important. The thing is, nursing school teaches you, the information that you need in order to pass the test, but your first few years of being a new grad nurse is going to really teach you on how to do your job. Now, let's talk about when you no longer have the preceptor with you. Being on your own for the first time, I was so terrified my first shift on my own. I feel like they intentionally gave me really difficult patients so that way you can really learn from them. But I was so scared because everyone was showing me different systems and how they do things, and I didn't really know what my own system was. Now I kind of have a better feel of what the system that I try to go through when I do my schedule. It takes a little bit of time to kind of figure out what works for you and what doesn't. I will say one day, your anxiety of being on your own will just go away. I was anxious probably for a week, and then afterwards I'm like, okay, I got the hang of this. But if there's things I don't know how to do, there's still a lot I don't know how to do, I will happily ask for help, because it is much better to ask for help than to completely do something wrong and have to do it again or get in trouble or put the patient in harm. So definitely, I'm just glad that I can ask for help. There also comes with the topic of imposter syndrome. Every day that, especially in the beginning, I felt so dumb. I know I'm not dumb, but I felt so dumb. Every day since, I feel a little less dumb, but I still feel dumb. And that's okay. I accept that. And it's, again, good that I have a really supportive unit culture that accepts all of my questions and doesn't make me feel silly for asking it. It's been 6 months, and I want to tell you, my IV skills are not the greatest. The population that I work with tends to be older, more frail, and their veins just aren't really the greatest. And so, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I think what really helped me with my imposter syndrome is I've actually worked a full-time career in something else. I used to be a paralegal full-time for 3 years before switching over to nursing. And I knew that if I could survive transitioning from one field to another and, being full-time in a whole other position, I can do this. It's fine. It will take some time to learn the ropes, and it takes a lot of time to really, be thrown all the situations that you need to prepare for. But I'm learning through the process, and every day I'm grateful that I get to learn from amazing people. Next, I want to talk about shift work, specifically day shift versus night shift. I'm very lucky that in my unit that I work in, you can kind of pick between which one you want, day shift or night shift. You don't have to rotate. I've had a rotating schedule before, and I will never ever do that again. I will never flip-flop between days and nights. It's just too hard. I felt like day shift felt very rushed, and I personally don't like feeling rushed in my professional life. I like adrenaline in my personal life, but not in my professional life. And on top of that, while I'm working to pay off my student loans, that night shift differential is just so good. It's so good. I love it. I love it so much. In terms of the sleep schedule, though, I will say my sleep schedule was more normal when I used to be on day shifts compared to night shift. I'll give you an example of what my sleep schedule is like for night shifts. Came back from night shift. I went to sleep from 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. I ate dinner and then I fell asleep again at 11:30 p.m. Woke up at 3, decided to go to the gym at 5, came back home at 7 a.m., and then took a nap until like 10 or 11. So that's kind of how it feels like. You're constantly like asleep or you're having like weird breaks in between. Personally, for me, since I'm living with my parents and, I don't really have a lot going on right now, just really focusing on paying off that debt, it's okay for me, but I feel like maybe down the line, if I, have a family and stuff, it might be harder for me to do night shift. Now, let's talk about documentation, specifically through Epic. That's the database that I feel like a lot of US hospitals are using. And this is where my paralegal side kind of kicks in a little bit. Documentation is everything. Holy crud. But I feel like sometimes there's a thing called over documentation, which it's kind of hard because when you're the nurse, like there's so much you have to do and like documenting can take up a lot of time. But from a legal perspective, like it's important to have as much documentation as possible because if there's no documentation, it didn't happen. So I will say just be as very specific as possible, like give timestamps, give name drops on situations that happen for sure because management and whatever, if something happens, they're going to be reading your note and you want to make sure that all the details are there because you're not going to remember if they ask you even from like weeks from an incident. You're not always going to be able to remember what happened because you interact with so many patients all of the time. So just be very careful and make sure to do your due diligence on your charting. There's a lot of charting for sure. I love using smart phrases, like setting up smart phrases. That has saved my life in terms of typing up stuff. I will say the only thing that I need to work on is when I have to chart like every few hours or so, like trying to copy and paste what I can do. If anyone knows how to do that, like please let me know. Drop it in the comments because I'm tired of having to like click every single time. Please have nursing liability insurance. It doesn't matter what stage in your life you are in relation to nursing, but please have it because my paralegal side has taught me and living in the US has taught me that hospitals will gladly throw you under the bus, especially if you're brand new. So it's very important to have liability insurance to best protect yourself because the game of nursing has changed for sure. Healthcare has changed, people have changed, people on how they treat others has definitely changed a little bit. So just to protect yourself, get nursing liability insurance. It is very cheap. Now for an unfortunate topic, patient violence and Karens in the healthcare system. It's not that common that I get someone less than 50 years old to work with. And for some reason, I keep getting assigned patients that want to throw hands minimum once a week. And it tends to be during change of shift. Change of shift, I feel like it's because there's new faces, there's a lot of commotion going around, that patients just get freaked out, whether it be psych patients or patients who have Alzheimer's dementia that are sundowning. Stuff just happens. And you just have to, work with it as best as you can. It is not acceptable to be hit, for sure. Do not accept violence. Luckily, all the situations that I've been in relation to patient violence, there've been a lot of people around. There've been a lot of staff members available. There's been a lot of security right away. And so I haven't gotten like harmed in the process. So the two most common situations that I've been in and I've seen in relation to patient violence is the first one is in relation to sundowning and confusion and just redirection is just no longer working. During that time, that the patient is just out of it, empathize with the patient. They're confused, they have no idea what's going on. You have to have restraints put on them, medications to, sedate them, security, from the perspective of someone else. I'm sure that's like a lot happening at once, but the situation can be, downgraded for sure, hopefully. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it just gets worse. But at least security is there to help you out. The second situation I've been in, and I feel like this has just been more like verbally abusive compared to physically, is when a patient who is alert and oriented, or the family members of the patient who are alert and oriented, they are just not getting their way, aka the Karens. Being in a hospital is not equivalent to being in a hotel. We can't do things right away because we have other patients to tend to that all have different situations happening. Like someone could be dying in the other room, and I could have a patient be upset at me that I didn't give their Tylenol right away. And even if I try to explain that, they don't care. They want their Tylenol and they want to leave AMA because I'm not doing things fast enough or whatever. You can't please everyone. And in those situations, it's very frustrating for sure. I've definitely been in situations where the family doesn't understand or the patient doesn't understand that, there's a lot going on in a hospital and we're trying our best with the resources that we have, but we don't have infinite resources, unfortunately. And some things they just require wait. I feel like a lot of patients, they want the doctor like right away, but the doctor is not able to tend to be there right away unless like you're actively dying or if something is going drastically wrong. And therefore you have the nurses that are there all the time, and so they just take it out on the nurses, which it's not okay at all, but unfortunately it is what you have to go through. It's okay to feel what you feel, but do what you need to do first as much as possible, and then take the time you need to process it, because it's a lot. Working in healthcare, especially as a nurse, it's a lot. You are unfortunately at a higher risk of physical, verbal, sexual, unfortunate violence. It's really important to keep yourself safe in this profession because you're taking care of all kinds of people, but you also have to take care of yourself. Now let's talk about a very serious, intense topic: patient death. I've had experiences of patients passing away. Luckily, I haven't had any yet. I know it's going to happen, of patients passing away where you have to perform CPR. All of the patients that I've had, they've passed away through comfort care. And I feel like that gave me a little bit of peace, knowing that they wanted peace and they had their loved ones with them when they passed away. When I was a PCA, I also had experiences dealing with patient deaths as well. And what's really important is to have compassion for the family members. This is someone's life that's been lost, and this person was valued by others. And, it's very tough because you have to try your best to emotionally distance yourself, but, we're human. You feel things, and sometimes you have to step away and take the time you need to breathe in order to do your job, because it's tough. It can take a toll on you. What people don't realize as a nurse is there's actually a lot of steps that you have to do after a patient passes away. There's so many people you have to call. You have to call organ donor, you have to call medical evaluation, you have to call, so many people. And when you're doing it, it can kind of de-emotionalize the situation by saying like, hey, you got to do this, you got all these people. And it's really important to take a step back and really recognize that this is a person, this is a real person that was lost, and no matter what, cannot be brought back. It could have been someone's parent, someone's child. So it's really important to have compassion and go slowly during these time periods and understand that people grieve in different ways, because it's not easy losing a patient. And explaining to family members, it's tough because it feels like you're going through the process all over again too. It's a tough part of the job, but it's an unfortunate part of the job that you have to do, and you just have to do it with as much grace as possible. Alrighty, now I want to talk about dealing with social, hospital, admin, whatever, politics. There's a lot of unspoken rules in relation to working in a hospital, working as a nurse. I feel like there's a lot of policies that I just randomly learn about while I'm doing my job, because there's just so much that you have to do. There's a lot of people you have to work with. Like I've said, I've been very grateful that the people that I work with, I haven't really had problems with them. It tends to be people that are not nurses, doctors, that tend to have a little bit more attitude and more problems. I understand that working in healthcare, it's stressful, but it's also important to be respectful to the other staff members as well, because you're all working on the same goal. You're all working together. And if you have disagreements, it's important to just hash it out, because it's going to interfere with your job. You don't want to be known as the person that people don't want to talk to and don't want to work with, because it just interferes with your job for sure. In addition, there's also like hospital politics that you have to deal with. For instance, my hospital system, we're going through a system-wide change. It's going to change how we do timekeeping and stuff like that. And there's a lot of random politics that, even in day shift where I'm not allowed a water bottle and stuff, there's like random politics like per unit, per hospital that you have to deal with that can be a little bit frustrating, which is why I like working nights. Alrighty, now we're going to talk about balancing your personal life and balancing burnout. I feel burnt out all the time. I'm going to be quite honest. I don't really have much of a life because I live at home and I'm just trying to save up for when I move out and also to pay off all my loans. Even though I only work 3 days a week, those 3 days are so brutal because one, I'm working night shift. My sleep schedule is so messed up. And then my workout schedule is messed up. My diet, everything's just like all out of whack. It can be tough for sure, trying to balance a personal life with your professional life, but take as much days off as you need. I feel like I have been really good about communicating with my family on what I need. Like if I have a bad shift, I will literally message my parents before I go home like, hey, please don't talk to me. Like it's been bad. Like I don't want to talk about it because, sometimes it can be hard for people who don't work in healthcare. Luckily, my mom's working in healthcare, so she gets it. Because they're like, oh, you worked 3 days. Like, it can't be that hard. I work 12 hours and only get a 30-minute lunch break and 2 15-minute breaks, but that I never get to take in between. But I try to make time for what I want to do. Actually, I'm going to be going on vacation soon, and I'm so excited because I haven't been on a vacation in a while, and I feel like I need one every quarter in order to just feel alive again. I hope this video helps out other new grad nurses or even experienced nurses feel and understand that what they're feeling is normal and that they're not alone in this situation. If you want to know more about nursing, check out my nursing playlist up above. And in relation to that, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe. And with that, I wish you all a very good day and a very good night.